Okay. It didn't. So notice that we are actually on page 2. That is the beginning of the notes. And then congruent polygons. We're going to write some stuff down. The word congruent means what, y'all? Yeah. So that would mean if these polygons are congruent, they are exactly the same. I guess now they aren't like exactly the same. They have different vertices, but the corresponding sides and angles, all the sides are the same. All the angles are the same, so we're going to write that word equal. They're all equal. So this first part is for you to understand the markings on triangles. And a lot of you guys already know what those things are. But if you don't know what they are, then let's make sure we do this. So you're going to see something called a congruent statement. This is a congruent statement. And what it means is angle D matches up with the first letter on this triangle. So D will match up with F. So I'm going to put these arc marks on here. I'm going to put one arc mark on each of those. And then I'm going to look at the next letter. J, I'm going to put 2 arc marks on it. And then it's going to match up with the second letter on the second triangle, which just happens to be C. So hopefully we're starting to see how these match up. You just need to be able to, because if you look down here, these are all marked up. You need to know how to read them and know what it means. And so this last one, T, it matches up with R. They're both the third letter. That means those angles are congruent. So I'm going to put 3 arc marks on T and R. And I have marked the angles. Fantastic. Let's write that out. The congruent angles are angle D is congruent to angle F. J is congruent to C. Honestly, you don't even need the picture. You really can just look at the congruent statement. J and C are the middle letters, so they match up. They also have 2 arc marks. Is that kind of small? You want that zoomed in a little bit? You feel okay with it? Okay. Got young eyes. All right, angle T. What'd I do? Did I mess up? T and R match up. And now we're going to write down the congruent sides. So these are a little different. We're going to mark them. So look at here. DJ are the first 2 letters. FC are the first 2 letters. Let's look at the picture. D to J, we're going to put 1 tick mark. It's called a tick mark. Looks like these things down here. And that means that FC is going to be the exact same because they are in the same spot in the congruent statement. And so we're going to mark all 3 of the sides like that. JT, we're going to put 2 little lines. And CR, because they're the same. They're both the last 2. And then the last side, I'm going to put 3 arc marks. And then let's also know how to write. So this is how we wrote angles. Let's also know how to write sides. DJ is congruent to FC. And also remember that, like, when you're naming segments, they can be switched. So you can put JD and FC, or you can put CF. It doesn't matter. Also, if you have a congruent symbol, typically it has these little lines up at the top. It's not like a huge deal, but just know that that just means it's a segment. All right. They both have 1 tick mark, and then CR and JT. CR is congruent to JT. And then lastly, so just make sure you see this. DT has 3, and it's the first and last letter. FR has 3, it's the first and last letter. So those also match up, and it's fine. DT. What's your question? Okay, so what I want you to do next is look at all of these arcs and tick marks and match them up and write in the angles, sides, and statement. And just pause your video and then check it. Okay, so the congruency statement is a little different because it has this symbol here. It just means that it's a quadrilateral, one with 4 sides. And just make sure the A matches up with the E, the B with the F, C with G, D with H. And then here's all the angles and sides. And just one thing I want to point out, this right here, so like G, H, and DC, they're both the last two letters. So that's why that works. A, D, and E, H, it's the first and last letter of each one. So that's why that works. All right, now I want you to go to this one right here, and you are going to do this on your own. You're going to write your very own congruent statement, but I'm going to start it like this. So I'm going to make it A, D, B, and I want you to fill in the other letters of the congruent statement. Okay, so let's make sure we realize why CBD matches up with ADB. You have to look at the picture. So B on the top triangle has one arc mark. And then if you look at the bottom triangle, D has one arc mark. So that means that D has to be, if that D is the second letter, then B has to be the second letter. And then same thing for the top triangle, 2 arc marks on D, bottom triangle, 2 arc marks on B. So that means B and D have to be the same, and then A and C match. Okay. Okay, that throws people off almost every time, so if you got it wrong, that's okay, because it happens a lot. People want it to be ADB and then CDB, like every time. But, well, that's okay. Now, that's the point of this, is to show you. Alrighty. So, for this one, we are going to look at these pictures and realize that it says, here's your congruent statement. So, these are congruent. So, B matches up with, I'm going to put 1 arc mark on B, and then look at my congruent statement, and N is what it matches up with. So, that means that B and N are the same. Also, A matches up with M. And then the third side matches up, C and O. Okay, important thing here. All of the angles are congruent. So like B is the same as N, but we don't know what N is. But we can figure that out because just off the top of your head, do you guys remember all 3 angles in a triangle add up to what number? Oh my goodness, that's so good. 180. So, 46 plus 45 plus X equals 180. And a lot of you guys can look at this and do it in your head and realize that, oh, if I add these two together and subtract them from 180, then I'll get my answer. But, so these added together is 91. Subtract that from 180. 89 is what this angle's going to be. So, if angle N is 89 and angle B is the same, then that means they equal each other. But we need to first solve for Y because there's 2 variables in there, and we just did systems, and I don't want to do it again. So let's not. But I want to figure out, okay, which one matches up, and you can kind of tell from here, but M and O are the first and last letter, so A and C are what it's going to match up with. So if these two are the same, all you have to do is put an equal sign between them, and then you can solve for Y. And the way you figure that out is from the congruent statement, and then you realize they're the same, and you just set them equal. So I'm going to add 13 on both sides. So 5Y equals 2 plus 3 is 5, 45, and then divide by 5 on both sides. So Y is going to be 9. So we know what Y equals, and then our last step is to realize, oh, B and N are congruent to each other. So if angle B is congruent to angle N, and we know what each of the values of each of them are, 2x plus, instead of writing Y, I'm going to write 9 there, because I know what Y is. And then here is 89, because we figured that out. So subtract 9 on both sides. 2x equals 40. And then we're going to divide by 2 and get 20. That's wrong.
I was about to say.
That's wrong. I did the answer in my mind before I did the last step. 2x equals 80, and then you get 40. And don't divide by 2 again, like a crazy person. Just making sure y'all are paying attention, and at least 3 of y'all were, so that's good. I'm just kidding. Y'all were paying attention. So, we're going to start by looking at the congruent statement, and we're going to, well, I guess we can figure out what KL is first. Why not? It says the perimeter is 47, so if we add all of these together, it equals 47. So that's the same as take 8 plus 12 plus 9 plus 13, so like all of these things plus x, and set it equal to 47. And then if you add these 3, you get 42. But you can use your calculator. Right? Don't you get 42? Doesn't it equal 5 at the end? Okay. Fantastic. So, I combined like terms and got 42 plus x equals 47. Subtract 42. Oh, goodness. I can't write. So, x is going to be 5. We'll need that later. Not right this second. We're going to answer these 2 questions and then we'll be done. Which of the following statements is true? So the first one, KL is congruent to UV. You don't even need to look at the picture. All you need to do is look here and find KL and say, all right, KL is second and third. Is U and V second and third? No. So it's not true. We're going to cross that one out. D is true. WX is the third and fourth. JN is the first and last, so obviously no. So that's the process that we are doing to solve these. X and Y are the last 2, J and K are the first 2, so they are not the same. But this last one, J and N, is the first and the last number. U and Y, also the first and the last, so yes, it is true. Because you're just matching the letters. All right, last thing, and then we're done. VW. We've got to figure out which side VW matches up to. So VW is here. That means it matches with KL, which is what we just solved for. Crazy. So VW will also be 5. And that's all.